Hey everyone, it's May, and this is a special edition of the May Lee Show because I am doing this episode about the Lena Hernandez case. Now, Lena Hernandez is the woman that we all know quite well now. She has assaulted 3 different Asian Americans in Torrance. The last 2 were very recent in just the last less than 2 weeks in the park. And those videos shot by each victim went viral. I mean, everyone watched these videos because this woman, Lena Hernandez, was so vile in her racism and her racist rhetoric and her violent language and her violent threats, really death threats against both these people. And then, of course, we found out that this same woman had physically assaulted an Asian American woman back in October in Torrance at a shopping mall. So once we started getting more information about this woman, I think a lot of us were up in arms about the fact that she was out there just continuing to assault people and target Asians particularly. So I took it upon myself to continue following this story, and I wanted to dig a little bit and just find out what was going on and, why this October incident never kind of turned into anything. And just wanted to make sure that the police and other officials in the city were going to follow through this time. Well, as a lot of you know who follow me on Instagram and the show, but particularly Instagram because I've been trying to keep you guys updated, the follow-through hasn't been so good, at least initially. And so when I expressed my concern on Instagram to all of you and said, listen, I'm doing my best to contact the mayor and the city council and the police, and I kind of gave out a call to action. Well, a lot of you responded, and I started calling you my warriors, kind of like the BTS army. And so a lot of you did. A lot of you called, a lot of you emailed, a lot of you were using social media to try to get their attention and demand answers. Well, of course, then it was 24 hours later, the mayor, Fury, the chief of police, Berg, and then a state assemblyman all had a press conference last week to talk about this situation with Lena Hernandez, and that's when they confirmed her identity, and then they asked for the public's help to provide any more tips because they were on the lookout for her. And so what then happened was that nothing happened. They hadn't found her. I had called the police to get an update, and they had told me that they were looking for her, and they were following leads, and they just couldn't find her. But finally, one of my followers on Instagram, she immediately informed me and others that she saw Lena Hernandez sitting in a park in San Pedro. And so she called the police immediately, and they came. And this was Wednesday, June 17th, right? Yeah, June 17th. And apparently they questioned her, but then they didn't do anything. The report is that it's because she still had no formal charges filed against her by the city attorney of Torrance, even though her 3 victims had filed reports and filed charges. So they did not arrest her. Now, according to Sergeant Martinez of the Torrance PD, he is the public information officer, he said that they can't arrest her because there's no charges by the city attorney, and also because these are all misdemeanors. It's not like she committed a felony. Police actually have to witness a misdemeanor before they can arrest somebody. Even though these assaults, 2 of them were videotaped, clearly. That's why these videos went viral. And also the first assault against the woman at the mall, she had actually filed a report on the spot and then also filed charges 3 days later. We're going to get to that, and I'll explain that in a bit. So the more I started digging, the more confused I got and the more questions I had. And I've been sharing all of this with all of you. And I think most people feel the same way, that this just doesn't sound right. So I have been calling the Torrance PD. In fact, just today I called again, got a voicemail, haven't gotten a call back. I called the city attorney now twice. Today I called again. First time I left a message, they never called me back. Today I called again, and I got a voicemail saying the city attorney's office is closed every other Friday. So just please leave a message. We'll get back to you the next business day. Well, that must be nice, having every other Friday off. So I was a little surprised by that. So Patrick Sullivan, who's a city attorney, has yet to call me back. And apparently he's the guy who's supposed to make all these decisions. He's the guy who's supposed to look over all this evidence, all the reports, all the charges that have been filed by the victims. And then he himself, with his team, are supposed to decide whether or not they are going to file formal charges against Lena Hernandez. Until that happens, she's free to roam around. So that is the update on that front. Then I tried to ask questions about the first incident back in October, where a woman was physically assaulted in the bathroom when she was trying to be a good Samaritan because Lena Hernandez was verbally assaulting a custodian in the bathroom. Well, this woman, Kayceelyn Salminao, tried to intervene, and she then got physically assaulted. She had filed a report and filed formal charges with the Torrance PD and absolutely said, I want to pursue this and press charges and, whatever it takes. So nothing ever came about until, of course, these two recent incidents happened. So all of this is very peculiar. I should say that I did ask the Torrance PD about why nothing ever came about with that first incident. And Sergeant Martinez said, it's because she decided to drop the charges and she decided she didn't want to pursue. Hang on, let me look at my notes exactly. Yes, he said she didn't want to pursue charges at the time. And then he said, but now she wants to, meaning after seeing the recent incidents, now she wants to. That's not true. She never dropped the charges. They just never got back to her. They never gave her an update. They never pursued this. So basically, they just let it go. So that was something that was inaccurate. And when I called Sergeant Martinez back to ask him about that, because Casey Alvarado then contacted me when I put out that report on Instagram saying this is what the police told me about that case. She immediately corrected me saying that's not true. That's not what happened. I never dropped the charges. I never wanted the case to go away. So when I called Sergeant Martinez back and pressed him on that, he started hesitating and he said, I will have to go check with the detectives who were originally on the case to find out what happened. Well, he hasn't called me back. And I left a message today, like I said, and I'm not getting a call back. So this is what I do as a journalist. I mean, I want to get answers and I want to get the facts straight. And I'm giving everyone a chance. But, I have to say, this doesn't sit well with me. And so that's why I think I'm pushing even harder. So I then got back to Casey and I said, listen, I would love to talk to you in person, not in person, not during COVID, but do an interview with you by video to talk to you about what happened to you, your assault last year, what happened with your case. Let's get your story and figure out why there is this gap in information. And so after a little bit of persuasion, she agreed. So she is joining me now to talk about the details of what happened to her back in October up to now. Hi, Casey. Welcome to the show. I'm so glad to see you.
Hi, May. Thank you for having me.
Okay, so listen, Casey, I mean this story and this situation with Lena Hernandez uh is just so frustrating in so many ways to so many of us because it seems like, there have been several incidents with this same woman, and you being the first. This incident you back in October of last year. So, let's start with that. Tell me exactly what happened on October 11th, 2019.
So I was just using the restroom at the Delamo Mall, and Lena Hernandez was using the same restroom as I was.
Okay.
The custodian comes in, does her duties. While I'm washing my hands, she's pushing open the doors to make sure the restroom's clean. Unfortunately, Lena's door was unlocked, so it wasn't properly locked. And then the custodian opens the door to Lena Hernandez, and that's when she starts yelling at the custodian, like, "You should get fired, B. What the F are you doing?" And
Oh,
then the custodian continues to apologize. And then Lena just keeps on yelling at her the same thing over and over again. And then I look at the custodian because she's obviously verbally harassing this woman and she can't do anything about it. So that's when I step in and yell at Lena Hernandez and say, "You need to stop that. You're being rude." So
okay.
she comes out of her bathroom stall, and then that's when she walks up to me and then shoves me down to the floor. I actually
She
fall down to the
Did
floor.
she say anything to you at that point, or she just physically pushed you right away?
I think from what I remember, she came out and she said, "You shut up," and then pushed me down to the floor.
Wow.
Yeah.
To the point where
And
you fell on the floor, right? And tell me, like, physically what happened to you.
yeah, so I remember her putting her hands on me on my upper body
Okay.
and shoves me down to the floor, and I fall on my back.
Wow.
And then I'm looking up at her from the floor, and she's pointing down at me, saying, "You better not get the F up or else."
Wow.
So I tell the custodian, "Call security." And
Okay.
then as I'm getting up, I say, "What the heck did you do that for?" to Lena. And that's when she grabs my hair, pushes my head down, and then starts punching me in the back of the head multiple times.
Oh my God.
Yeah, and then so at that time, I'm just like saying, "Get off me, get off me." So I'm obviously being loud at that point, but no one can see people can hear what's going on outside, but they can't see what's going on inside.
Yeah.
And we're kind of like near the entrance of the restrooms at the mall. So someone thankfully walks into the restroom where my husband is outside waiting, and he sees that. So that's when he runs in and
Oh
pushes
my
Lena
God.
Hernandez off of me.
Wow. So
Yeah.
your husband came in to stop the assault.
Yeah.
So the custodian, though, had left to try to get help. So she did not witness the
No,
assault.
she was there. She
Oh,
was
she was there. She was
she had
calm.
a radio. She had a radio.
Oh my God. Okay.
Mhm.
So, I mean, where do I even begin? What are you thinking at this point when she is physically assaulting you? She's punching your head and grabbing your hair.
I'm like, what is going on? This didn't even have to go this far. Like,
Right.
it's mind-boggling why someone would go to that extent just for someone accidentally walking into your bathroom stall.
What was the sense you got from Lena Hernandez then? Like the state of mind and the kind of person she was during this assault and during this incident? Did you get a sense of like, this woman's nuts, or this woman is just violent, this woman's hateful? I mean, what were you thinking?
The whole time I was just thinking, what a crazy woman! What a
Yeah.
crazy woman to act like this,
Right.
like
Right.
over this action.
Did she say anything? Because of course, the two incidents that have happened recently in the park, she
Hmm.
definitely verbally assaulting these two people, but also being very racist in her remarks. With your incident, did race ever come up? Did she throw any racial slurs at you or the custodian at all? I mean, what was that situation?
So no racial slurs, but she was using really bad language, and always was just like dropping F-bombs
Bombs. Okay. Yeah.
and B's and stuff. So yeah,
Right.
it was
Yeah.
really bad.
She has quite a mouth on her, doesn't she? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So this all happened, what, within just a few minutes? I mean, how long was this whole thing?
Yeah, probably within minutes. I could say like
Right.
within at least 10 minutes or less for that to happen.
Okay, so here you are trying to be a good Samaritan, and good on you. Honestly, Casey, a lot of people, in this day and age, because you never know what's going to happen, a lot of people don't want to step forward. They don't want to try to help, but you did, and so I really commend you for that. And I'm so sorry that it ended up with you getting assaulted. Okay, so then what happens? The security shows up, police show up. Tell me what happens next.
Yeah, so as soon as my husband pushes her off of me, my husband was like, what are you doing? That get off my wife.
Yeah.
And then that's when she actually leaves the restroom, and then my husband was like, you guys stay here, to both us, to me and the custodian, but we go outside the restroom and we wait in the hallway for security.
Okay.
And she starts fleeing the scene.
Ah.
So while the custodian and I are waiting in the hallway for security, he starts, from what I remember, from a distance, making sure she doesn't get away, just in case security doesn't catch her.
He's going after her.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
And after that, it's a long hallway and they disappear. So I don't know what happens after that. But when she's leaving, when I was able to take the photos in the hallway,
yes,
she starts yelling, "You're all gonna effing get it. You're all gonna get it."
Okay.
Yeah.
Which seems to be her thing. Always threatening people, right? I mean, she always is using very threatening language towards the victims. So does she get away then? She never.
No.
Okay. They are, your husband or other people are able to stop her then?
Yes. So security gets in contact with me, starts speaking to the custodian and myself, and then they say, "Do you want me to call police?" And I said, "Yes, I want you to call police."
Okay.
And that's when Torrance Police comes. They both are taking down my information. They take down my phone number. They take a look at my license. They take my statement. They ask me if I want to press charges. Mm-hmm. And then they take the custodian to a different area. And then Torrance Police and security start walking me toward, kind of near where I see them speaking to Lena Hernandez.
They're speaking to her. Okay.
Yes. Mm-hmm. So I actually see them actually still talking to her.
Okay.
And my husband is still kind of near them as well. So I do witness them taking down her statement as well, from what I'm aware of.
Okay. So this is where it gets a little bit gray, according to the police, and then your side of the story. They asked you if you want to press charges. Did you at that point, or did you want to wait and kind of figure that out as to whether or not you did want to press charges? Because according to the police, they said the incident happened on the 11th, but then you didn't file a report and want to press charges until 3 days later on the 14th.
Yes, that is correct. Because at the time I was like so shook.
Of course.
I didn't know what was going on.
Right. Which is totally understandable. Yeah. Because you know the law is that you have a year to file a report and press charges if you want to. So you had plenty of time to do that. So, there's no crime on your part of not, deciding to press those charges until 3 days later. Okay. So they get all the information from you that day.
Yes.
It's clear that from your account, from the custodian's account, and obviously, your husband saving you from this crazy woman, it all matched. It was all an assault, right? There was no question that this woman assaulted you.
From my standpoint, yeah, there was no question about it.
And do you know if the custodian also gave them the similar information? Do you have any idea?
No, they never told me anything about that.
Okay, but she was there the whole time.
Yeah, she was in the restroom the whole time.
Okay, so there would be no reason for her to not tell the exact same story because she was witnessing the entire assault the whole time.
Exactly, yes.
Yeah. Okay. So 3 days later, then you decide, yeah, you know what? I am going to go ahead and press charges. So
Hmm.
what happens then? The detectives come to you to
Uh,
file this report?
yes. So that following Monday, I call Torrance Police Department and I say I want to press charges against the woman that against what had happened to me on that Friday.
Okay.
So two officers come to my house and take my statement.
Yep.
And they're writing down all these notes. And then I go out to their police car, and that's when I sign the paperwork where I actually want to charge her
Okay.
and then they say, do you want to prosecute her to the full extent of the law? And I say, yes, of course.
Yep.
And then I sign over everything, and they give me a card, and they give me my case number, and they told me to call within 5 days, 5 days later, just to make sure everything is processed.
Okay. Which
Mhm.
then you did?
And then I called 5 days later, according to the officer that gave me the card, and
Mhm.
they said they still have no updates. So I left it at that.
Okay. Okay. And so when they told you, we have no updates, did they say anything like it's your responsibility to keep calling us to find out what's happening with this case, or did they give you any other information as to how you're supposed to proceed?
No, they didn't give me any other further information. They just said, oh, there's no other updates.
Okay.
And that's it.
Okay, so that's back in October. Cut to just a couple weeks ago. Well, not even like, a week ago, right? When all of a sudden these videos come out of this woman who's assaulting this younger woman, Filipina, in the park when she's exercising, right? We've all seen this video and it's just hideous, right?
Hmm.
When you first see this video, tell me what your reaction was.
So when I first watched this video, it was right after dinner time. So we're all like hanging out on the couch, and I watched the video, and I'm like, I gasped because I'm so shocked, because that's the woman that
Yeah,
attacked me in the restroom.
right.
Because
You
I
knew
remember
for a
her. I
fact.
remember her voice, and
Uh,
I remember how she looked. Because
yeah.
from the video, it looked like she was even wearing the same exact thing that she was wearing in my attack. So,
Mhm.
and then I show it to my husband, and then he was like, yeah, that's her as well. Like,
Okay.
he totally agreed.
Yeah. Yeah. So you had no doubt that this was the same woman who had assaulted you.
Yes, no
And
doubt.
when you watched this video, I would imagine that it probably sent chills down your spine and it took you right back to when you were being assaulted.
Yeah, it was very upsetting, because it's like she's still out on these streets, still
Right.
attacking people. So
Yeah.
it's like, what did they do in
Right.
between that time?
Right. So I'm sure then you were like, oh my God, they've done nothing, with my case, clearly, if this woman is still out there and now attacking other people. Did you then see the second video of the man who was being verbally assaulted in the parking lot?
I didn't get a chance to see the second video until the next day. So I
Okay.
saw the first video Wednesday night, and then on Thursday night is when someone sent me that video of the man
Okay.
from the, yeah,
And again, you're like, oh my God, she is doing this to
multiple people.
multiple people. So then what are you thinking? Are you thinking, wait a minute, I need to do something? I mean, tell me what your thought process was from the moment you saw those videos.
So after I told my husband, I was just like, it was obviously after, it's late in the night, so you can't really contact anyone.
Right.
So I start going to social media. I'm like saying, look, this is the same woman that attacked me back in October.
Right.
And I'm showing the photos of what I had took
That's what
from
I
when she
saw.
was
Yep.
walking away from the hallway.
Right.
I was like, and then so I was trying to get in contact with the victim,
Mm-hmm.
and then we haven't gotten in contact until that Friday.
Okay.
So yeah, and then I was like, man, what is going on? And then the next morning, because I posted it on Twitter, my phone was blown up
Blowing up, I'm
with
sure.
with
Yeah.
retweets and comments like, oh my gosh, that is the same woman.
Right.
Like, what is going on over there in Torrance?
Okay. And so then did you say to yourself, and maybe you talk to your husband, we have to contact police and tell them this is the same woman and then try to find out more about your case? Tell me what happened after that, when you realized it was the same. And you needed to do something.
Well, the funny thing is, I woke up that next morning, which was Thursday. Torrance Police Department was the one that actually contacted me.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they
All the
said,
time they contacted you.
yeah.
Okay, tell me what happened with that call.
So they told me to come in if I was available to come in and see if I wanted to go over my case again. And then I was like, of course I want to go over my case again.
Yeah,
So
you're like, what the hell happened to my case in the first place? Okay, anyway, that's just me personally expressing my opinion. But yeah, it's
yeah.
a little bit mysterious that they would just let go of your case and just seemingly dismiss it, but then all of a sudden they want to come to you about your case. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
So you tell me what happens then.
So I go in, the detective was asking me questions. It seemed like he had the police report right in front of him and he was reading off of it.
You mean your original police report?
Yeah, my original police report.
Okay.
But he kept asking.
Did he have to like brush some dust off of it before he started reading it?
Yeah, he started to add more notes to it because when I was retelling my story, he was asking me the same questions the original officers had asked me.
Okay.
On the same day at the Del Amo Mall when I said my first statement, and then when I said I wanted to finally press charges, they asked me the same questions.
Okay.
So I was retelling my story again, the same story over again. But he wanted to take it down in his own notebook.
I think that's police protocol. They ask the same questions just to make sure that your account is pretty similar in terms of like, is there anything that doesn't make sense? So that doesn't surprise me that they ask. But then did he try to explain to you what had happened with your case or anything of that nature? Did you ask like, why didn't you guys follow up on this? Anything like that?
I didn't think of that at the time, but what was new was that they asked me to see if they wanted me to look at photos.
Okay.
They never called me in before, ever.
Okay. Right.
To look at photos to see if I knew who the suspect was.
You mean after your incident?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. But in this case, because she had assaulted 2 other people, they wanted you to try to ID her with photos.
Yeah.
Okay. So they show you photos, and what was one of them, Lena Hernandez?
It didn't seem like it, no.
Oh, so they were showing you photos of other people.
Yeah.
How odd.
Yeah.
What do you think it was about?
I have no idea what that was about.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So you do that, and then
that's that.
That's
they say, okay. And then the detective says, if I have anything new, I will definitely contact you. But since then,
nothing.
And
I know that you have since tried to contact them just to see if there's any sort of update, correct? On what's going on with Lena Hernandez.
So I tried contacting Sergeant Martinez. Yes. And then the city attorney.
Yes.
I left voicemail.
Okay.
I've spoken with a detective, and he said I actually called him yesterday, and he finally got in contact with me.
Okay.
A week later after he talks to me. Okay. And he says, oh yeah, last Friday I sent in your case to the prosecutor's office. I have no other updates. Have a good day.
Okay. And that was the end of that.
Yeah. And then, it was a quick 10-second phone call, and then he just hangs up.
Okay. But they never, I guess you never asked, but they also never offered like why your case, they never followed through on your case.
No. They never discussed that.
Right. Because that I had done this update on, the Maylee Show Instagram, where I had spoken to Sergeant Martinez, and he had given me this story about what had happened with you. And he claimed that you decided not to pursue the case, right? And that's what I reported. And then that's when you immediately contacted me, and I'm so glad you did. You immediately wrote to me on Instagram and said, that's not true. I never dismissed the charges. I never dropped the case. Right.
Yes, exactly.
So I called him back, to say, hey, listen, man, I have now heard directly from, the victim who says absolutely she did not drop the charges. She did not walk away from the case. And she claims that you guys never followed through, right, with this incident. And that's when he sort of started backpedaling a little bit. I'm not making accusations. I'm just saying that he wasn't very committed. He didn't have conviction in terms of holding true to what he had told me initially. He then said to me, well, let me go back to the detectives to ask what happened, because I'm not sure what may have happened. I have since called him to try and get an update, and of course there's no callback.
Yeah.
And I've called the city attorney as well twice and left voicemails and no callbacks, because of course the claim is they can't do anything until the city attorney decides if he is going to press any sort of charges against Lena Hernandez, that therefore she can't be arrested.
Yes, that's what I've heard as well.
Right. So I got to ask you, how are you feeling about all this? I mean, tell me what's going on in your head. And because you were the first victim and you did what you needed to do to try to stop this woman, right? And nothing. And she's still out on the streets. And, we seem to all be hitting brick walls when it comes to getting more information. So tell me how you're feeling.
I'm definitely feeling very frustrated. Because in the beginning, I was just like, okay, I trusted in them that they would be able to do their job, because that's what they're in charge of.
Right.
They're in charge of keeping the community safe. And I followed through on wanting to press charges and never retracted.
Yeah.
So once I called for an update and they said no updates, I left it at that.
Yeah.
And then here comes another incident. Months later, same woman, multiple victims.
Yep.
And she's still doing the same thing out there.
Yeah.
And they're releasing all this press release and doing all this press conference paid by taxpayers.
Yeah.
And I'm a citizen of this community as well. I'm from Torrance.
Right.
So it's just like, and another thing that really upset me is that Mayor Fury said social media is not good.
Yes.
But Torrance Police Department is doing their press conferences. They posted 2 press releases
all on social media, yeah.
All on social media, and never contacted any of the victims.
Yeah, you mentioned that in your message, where that the press release had come out on Thursday, I guess it was, reporting that they had found Lena Hernandez. Of course, they failed to mention that it's because all these people saw her and they called in. So they kind of made it seem like they found her. Anyway, that's neither here nor there. But this press release just basically said they found her, they questioned her, but no arrests because there have been no charges filed by the city attorney. And that was the end of that. And I know you said they didn't even bother contacting the victims or letting us know about anything about her whereabouts and what the update was. I called too and said, is there any way you can provide me some information as to what that conversation was between the police and Lena Hernandez, now that you have finally been able to speak with her since the latest incidents? Nope, they can't release any of that. That's all going to the city attorney.
Oh,
so the city attorney seems like he's the man with all the information and sort of the power to make a decision, and yet he's not even trying to provide any sort of information that we're asking for. And for you as the victim, I would be incredibly frustrated too. If I were the victim, I would want every piece of information available about this case.
Oh, definitely. After seeing all these videos, and for her to still be able to be out there, and it seems like they're not trying to do anything about it,
right.
And it seems like they're brushing it under the rug once again.
Yep.
It's like they lit a fire under me, and I want it so bad now.
Good. I'm glad to hear that. That's what has to happen. The reason why I wanted you to come on, and I had to do a little convincing, but I'm so glad you I said to you, this is a moment, right, for the Asian American community where we've been, a little terrorized because of COVID and all the xenophobia and the racism. And if we stay silent and if we don't push back and speak up and really stand our ground, then this will continue happening, the dismissal, right? The just oh, they'll go away, because they're not strong enough to fight back. And so it's things like this that we have to, really grab onto and not let go until we get answers, until we get some results, right? Right now we're going through a whole Black Lives Matter movement because, my God, the African American community has suffered for centuries, right, with oppression and killings. And so, but in a similar way, that's a little bit smaller, obviously, for the Asian American community, we need to take a lesson from that of knowing that unless we speak up, unless we push back, unless we keep on making those phone calls and pressuring, elected officials and people who are, paid for by our tax dollars, then we're not going to get anywhere. So that's why I really appreciate the fact that you say that this fire has been lit under your butt about this,
But thank you for telling me all of that, because like you said, I'm sorry, like you said, I would have just kept quiet.
Yeah.
If you didn't keep on asking me
yeah.
to speak out.
Well, I'm glad I was persuasive enough to have you agree to come on. So let me ask you this, Kaycee. Like I was saying, there's so much of this growing racism against Asians because of COVID-19, and we're seeing this constantly, right? What are you thinking about Torrance right now? I mean, you said you grew up there, right? You're raising your kids there, your family's there. I mean, so does this make you kind of stop and think about, like, wow, what's going on? What's going on in this city? What's going on in this country?
Well, originally I thought this was such a great community because it's so diverse, and I'm part of the community. I'm part of the PTA at my daughter's school. And so we're always doing so many things within the community. You would think that racism wasn't alive here.
Yeah.
But obviously, with all these moments with higher up people that are not of color, it's starting to show a little bit.
Yeah. What just came to my mind is, like, is there a lack of empathy about, what communities are going through, especially the Asian community? And, you heard about that Japanese store that got that hateful letter taped to it. So again, that was an incident that just happened a couple of days ago. So yeah, something is not right. But also something's not right about how these cases are being handled. Mm-hmm. So, Kaycee, if you could send a message to city officials, the mayor, the police department, the city attorney, what would you say to them right now?
We just need justice. Stop being silent. Stop spreading false statements, and just do your job. That's all we're asking for.
Right. Yep. One thing I forgot to ask you, after your assault, were you okay, or were you hurt? Did you have to go to the hospital? I mean, what happened?
They asked me if I wanted some medical attention. I didn't have any visible signs of getting hit, but she did hit me in the back of the head, which I hear is like the worst place to get hit.
God, yeah. Okay.
But at that time, I declined. But looking back on it, I wish I would have still got checked out just in case.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, look, if anyone out there is like, why didn't she do this? Why didn't she do that? Here's the thing. When something like that happens, you're in shock, right? I mean, getting assaulted or just like a car accident, I mean, you're in shock at that moment. So you're not thinking straight. You don't know what to do. So therefore, it's understandable that you may have declined medical attention because you didn't even know what the hell happened to you. it's understandable that you didn't want to press charges right at that moment because you had no idea what had just happened. So, don't feel bad about any of that. And if people say that to you, tell them to fuck off. Seriously, so I do understand that because, when you're in situations of total duress and shock, then yeah, you're not going to think clearly. But I'm glad that you're okay. But I'm sure, all these new incidents have probably taken you back to that time, which wasn't so pleasant. So I'm sorry that you're having to kind of relive this whole thing.
It's okay.
Yeah.
But thank you.
Yeah, no, thank you. And I think this is going to be powerful because I want our community to see somebody like you who was victimized, but you don't want to hide. You want to speak out because you want your story will empower others who may be victimized in the future. Let's hope not, but there will be others. And maybe they will see you and say, you know what? No, I need to speak up and stand up for myself as well. So thank you.
Oh.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Well, listen, Kaycee, I know you and I are going to stay in touch because we're both like detectives now trying to find out these.
Gung ho.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So we're going to, let's keep it up because I think we can only get answers if we keep up the pressure.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Listen, Kaycee, thank you so much. It was such a pleasure talking to you. And thank you so much for sharing your story. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, May. I'm really glad that I'm able to share this story, and I hope people are out there listening.
Oh, I think a lot of people will be listening. So, all right. You take care of yourself, okay?
You too.
All right, guys. That is the update. Those are the stories that I have for you, and I really appreciate the fact that Kaycee was willing to come on. I'm perplexed. I got to tell you, I am perplexed, but I am going to keep digging, and I want all of you guys to also start digging because pressure is what works. Action is what works, and I know that if we continue asking questions, and we're asking questions because that's our right, and this is something that's happening to the community in Torrance, especially obviously the Asian American community. And so don't feel like you can easily be dismissed. Okay? You have a voice, you have rights, and we need to act upon our rights, use our voices, and demand answers. Kaycee told me that Mayor Fury has deactivated or at least, made his Twitter account private. So I guess he must be getting maybe inundated, possibly with a lot of tweets from people. But that, look, I don't want to jump to conclusions, but that's a little disappointing just from my perspective, that he can't handle, the requests and the demands and the questions. And I'm sure he's probably getting angry tweets too. But you know what? You're an elected official. Man up. Man up to it. This is what happens when you're a public figure. And this is what happens when you have constituents who want answers. And you got to deal with the good, the bad, and the ugly. If you can't take the heat, then get out of the kitchen, right? As they say. So that's the update, guys. And I want to thank all of you guys for your support. I've been talk about being inundated with so many messages and messages of support, of thanks that, I'm pursuing this. And, again, I do this because I really feel like I need to and I want to. I want to be a voice. I want to give you guys strength and motivation. I want to set an example to show you that just with a little bit of guidance, a little bit of direction, you can act on something and you can make a difference. So let's keep pushing, you guys, not just on this, but on all different issues that pertain to, justice, equality, and recognition of a community that matters, right? We matter. And all communities of color, especially that have been made to feel dismissed or less than invisible, that shit is over. So we need to make it very clear that we will not be dismissed. We are not invisible. Okay? Remember, you guys are my warriors. Okay? So let's fight the fight like warriors. Okay. Take care. I'll see you soon.